Yeah, on an age appropriate level, share the losses. Share when you struggle. The the thing is like you have an opportunity to have joy in the house. Paul talks about this. It's like, hey, I have joy when I have a little. I have a joy when I have a lot. And some of our best times in our family were when we had nothing, and we had nothing.
Hey, 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 what's going on? This is Brett Snodgrass with another episode of the Iron Deep podcast. Got my co-host Michael Stansberry on with me today. What's up? What's going on, Michael?
How are you, Brett? Great, sir. It's a beautiful day here in Memphis. How's the state of Indiana? You guys aren't getting hurricanes up there, are you?
We are not. We are not. Indiana doesn't get hurricanes.
That's right. You
So,
may get tornadoes, but hurricanes
yes.
that'd be tough to get up there.
Yes, yes. So yeah, but praying for obviously all the people dealing with hurricanes. We were actually getting ready to go down to Florida for fall break, but yeah, we're watching that, man. It's just pretty crazy right now what's going on with natural disasters. And whether you guys are listening to this, we're recording this back in October 2024. So yeah, man. Did you guys have any plans you had to cancel or anything like that?
Well, we're waiting and seeing as well. So next week we're supposed to go to Daytona and hit Orlando. So I don't know if you're going to be
Yeah,
around there. Maybe we
I
can.
was.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
all right. Well, maybe talk offline about that.
All right.
But yeah, that's where we're headed to go see my mom and stepdad down there and hang out with them. But we're waiting to see what these next couple days bring.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good, man. Well, hey guys, we're going to dive into just a hot topic on today's show, and we're going to be diving into the topic of bringing family into business. A lot of business owners out there. Michael's a business owner. I'm a business owner. If you guys are new to the show, we talk to a lot of business owners and especially men business owners, and this has been something on my mind, especially as my daughter reaches her teen years. She's a senior in high school right now, and now the wheels are starting to turn a little bit. Oh, I wonder if she'll be in my business, right? Or I wonder if I'll bring her into the business, and or she might make the comment of like, "Dad, I'd like to own your own business one day." So we're having these types of conversations, and so we're going to talk about this. What are some of the pros of bringing family into business? What are some of the challenges bringing family into business? I know Michael, you've have some experience with bringing your son into your business. We're going to talk about that. Um, but yeah, I think we all kind of go down this journey, especially if we've been in business long enough to is it smart to bring my family into the business? Should I or should I not? And that's just kids we talked about. We also talk about spouses as well. So, Michael, I'll let you kind of maybe kick it off a little bit. Because your kids obviously are getting a little bit older now, and talk about your experience with bringing kids into your business and some of the thought patterns that you've had in this.
well, one of the things that's changed. My opinion and things have changed over time about a couple things is bringing my son into the business. They've been watching and seeing, and I feel very fortunate and lucky that I've never had a real job. I've always had my own business and been an entrepreneur, and so they've seen that, and so the culture of that has been ingrained in the family and kind of the ethos. Not that we would steer my kids away from having a regular job or going after some sort of other career. That's not what we're trying to do. What we've done almost unintentionally is we've just created this culture of, dad is a real estate investor. He flips houses and he buys these assets and how does that work? And so those are the conversations that we have. I definitely bring work home, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And that's not so very popular to say, but I love what I do. So we talk about it. And sometimes there's real negative things about my work. Like, there are some peaks and valleys with work. And so instead of, I've seen this a lot with families as they shield their kids from, when things are going bad, or when things are tight. The kids can see things and they can know things. And, when you're a kid, you always listen to your parents, have their conversations, arguments, or whatever you want to call them. So one of the things that we did is we just kind of let them in on it on a level at their age appropriate. But real economics, not school economics, but real economics, I think
Hmm.
can be caught and
Hmm.
taught.
Mm.
So you're learning in a laboratory instead of learning. You're learning in the real world instead of learning in a school setting of really what is a profit, how to make profit, and what is my son knows what the QuickBooks. He knows what that interface looks like. He knows what taxes do. He knows about these things that we don't teach. So one of the things that if you're an entrepreneur, if you're lucky enough to be, if you're blessed to be an entrepreneur, is bring them in early and show them. Nothing was cooler to me. My dad was my dad did not have a sexy job, Brett. He was a box salesman. He sold
Mm.
boxes. He
Mm.
would call it corrugated shipping. He was real proud. It's like, you want to dress something up, you call it something that it's like better than that. So corrugated shipping.
That does sound that
It
does sound
sounds
cool.
better than boxes, but I would go to, international paper, where he worked and was fascinated by the machines that made boxes, and he was the guy that sold those boxes, and so, bring him in, show him what you do, they're not gonna necessarily get all the concepts right away, but you just keep showing them and telling them what's going on. So that's what we've done. And my oldest, Colin, caught it right away, and then the other ones are, we'll see what happens. But one of the things that we've been more intentional about, specifically after when COVID happened, is I read a book called The Household and the War of the Cosmos. In fact, I think we had the gentleman that wrote that book on an Iron Deep podcast. And he basically goes back and talks about how the household is where businesses were created in the household with your family, all the economics, everything, back in the day when you had chickens and horses and pigs and cows and all that stuff. Now, we don't have any of those things. We do have chickens. So that's pretty cool. We get
There
our
you go.
eggs every day.
Get your eggs.
We do, and that's cool. So, and everybody, most people likes the eggs, but we do. Your household, your family is supposed to create. We have a creation mandate. In
Mm.
fact, it says be fruitful and multiply. That has to deal with like having kids, having lots of kids, and then also, there's a mandate to go out there and go subdue. And so this is how I put the vision on for everything that we do. Pre-COVID, I was like, I can't wait till my son turns 18 and I'll help him get out of the house as fast as possible. That's how I thought I was. And I don't, and what I'm trying to articulate here is that was wrong for us,
Yeah.
because when COVID hit and everything got super expensive, and you realized, okay, these kids, when they turn 18, 19 years old, they can't afford to even live out on their own. I mean, we're in the
Right.
business of real estate,
Yeah.
and it'd be very difficult. So that was a reality, and then the reality was no, this kid performs, and he doesn't, he's not. We haven't raised children that just leech off us. They're productive, and you want to raise productive kids right away, and so that your household could thrive. So in the bigger picture, that's how we've been filtering everything and doing our best that we can. We still, it's, believe me, it's not perfect. It's just how we filter it now. But what it has changed, because the oldest is kind of bought into, hey, let's do this. I have a longer timeline for all the assets that we buy. So instead
Mm.
of buying a rental property for like, hey, 5 years, I look at it and go, okay, how can it help the household? But post, we're done making babies.
Mhm.
Um, we're not done. Yeah, we're done. It's not, we're we're
Maybe.
we're done that, but my kids aren't. I want my kids
Right.
to be able, and I want their families to thrive, and we want to make sure that our grandkids, go to have a lot of different possibilities. And we go, like, our kids are in private schools, and we don't lobby and we don't ask for it, but we pay for that. But
Mhm.
my wife and I were like, you know what? We want to make sure that our grandchildren have that option too. So we look at anything that we do and assets that we don't want to enable our kids to, and like, hey, you got this in case you just guys want to be lazy. Nope, that's not
Right.
what we're saying
Right.
at all. We want to be able to help them in every way possible to let the family thrive down the line through generation to generation. We want to
Mm.
be able to do that. Now that has a lot to do with how you know raise your kids and make sure that
Hmm.
there's a in scripture there's a covenant that God has with you, and He says, you know, you and your whole household will be baptized, and I believe that covenant means that if you are a loving family that loves Christ and that you are raising your family to be Christian, God will honor that covenant. God will honor that.
Absolutely.
There's lots of chapters in Acts when a whole household gets baptized, and that includes the little babies. And
Hmm.
what that implies is that household is going on that trajectory of loving Christ for their whole life.
Mm.
And so that's the bigger picture, but that's what we're we're pushing toward our generational change in our whole family down the line.
Hmm.
So with the business, we look at it as like not just my firstborn, but all the other ones have options to kind of come in and participate in that, and
Hmm.
we're going to help them. There is there are strings attached. Now, don't
Hmm.
you know because you can't just write a blind check to your kids and expect them. There are strings attached. You just gotta be on the you got to be on the path, and if you're not on the path, then I watched this happen. Let's just say if somebody's not on the path, then you got to give them tough love, and until they get back on the path, you got to give them up to the Lord. You got to do those things.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
we went off here, but that's the filter and how I filter all the business stuff that
Yeah.
we're doing.
I think I want to just talk about that, and it just goes back to you've just been really been having an open conversation with your family, and I think that's just really really important. I know that a lot of even business guys, their kids might not even know what they do for a living. Number one, they don't talk about their business. It's funny how men can be workaholics, but then they don't bring some of that even into the home, where maybe they might complain about certain things, and maybe if they're having a bad day, but maybe they don't have that honest, open conversation with their spouse, with their kids, and just open it up and just say, "Hey, anything you guys want to know about what Dad does or the business, and why I do, what we do, and how do we put a roof over our head, and how do we pay for this meal, and things like that." I just think it's really really cool how you have an open conversation about your business, and we can do the same thing with other areas. Sometimes we just compartmentalize our life. We can do the same thing with our faith, that like, oh, this is my faith. I spend my quiet time, I pray, but again, I don't have maybe some of the open conversations with my family. So really just bringing your family in to all the parts of your life, I think is really, really awesome. So, and you said you started that at a young age, and it's been very fruitful. Um, Talk to me about, so I know your son is part of the business. What about your wife? Like, what does that look like? I don't know if she's worked. What does that particularly look like in your business with regards to your wife? Has she ever been involved? What does that conversation look like?
Well, so one of the things that in the way that our household has worked, um, you know, we have never. She's always just been the encourager. She's always just been, I go to her with deep, if we got some problems, she knows. Here's the thing about my wife. She can look at me and know, oh, what's going on, and then it's like it's work, and so for the longest time, she's been what I say is like the best gift that God could ever give me, just a super encourager. There were times when early on in the business when she'd be more anxious, but she gave that up, and she just trusts me to run the business. But in the last couple of years, I put some assets in her name and in Colin's name, and she helps. She's helping in those because I want her to have a breadth of knowledge about, hey, if God forbid something were to happen to me, she knows some systems and processes and how they would operate. So one of the
Yeah,
assets that we have a car wash, and she's 50% owner with my son on that. So I'm not even involved in that other than as a consultant, but
cool.
and so But there are, they're very much sometimes, when your wife is not involved intimately in the business, sometimes it's hard to articulate things. And so, there's still like, I'm giving you, hey, we do our best to communicate, but even I will tell you, I have, that is where sometimes I've struggled a lot, is to articulate when like there's 5 or 6 fires going on.
Hmm.
There are times, Brett, when business just seems like it's just so easy, and then there are
Hmm.
times when you're like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
and then and that's hard to, you as a man, you want to protect your family from any kind of stress and any
Hmm.
kind of that, so it's hard, sometimes to, process that in front of your wife, to like really could be, vulnerable there.
Yeah.
But super encouraging, and and I think that we're getting in the season of life where she's got more options because our kids are growing up, and so we'll see what that
Yeah.
looks like.
And I think that's maybe the key point is I think there's just different seasons of life, that if you're listening, you got to determine what season you're in. Maybe you have young kids and it's maybe not the right time to start bringing them in. Um, or your wife, again, she's at home, she's taking care of those young kids, and maybe that's not the right time. And you guys are entering in a sweet season of, yeah, she has more options, and we are too. And maybe looking at what your kids or your wife's gifts are, and just maybe you can encourage them. Like I feel like my wife's been taking care of the kids for the last 10 plus years, and then now she might have a little bit more options. Still, pretty busy life, but she loves hospitality, for example. So like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, maybe house flipping isn't really the thing, but could we do a short term rental together? One of the things that we would love to do is there more of a retreat type of place? Maybe not now, but 5 years from now, into the future, that we could operate, and that would be kind of really cool to really get that hospitality. So always trying to think about uh, your family's gifts and what they want, and how you can create, right. That's how I always think it too, is instead of trying to find the solution, sometimes we pray it through, but then we try to create something, create the
Right.
solution. So
Yeah.
um
It's that creation mandate again. Go
that's
go
right.
out there and subdue and have fun, and yeah, and have fun, and I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Definite seasons in life will affect the the amount of effort that you can put into something, and so you got to be mindful of margin and mindful of rest, and make sure that those things are a priority.
Yeah.
And so, because I've seen it and you've seen it, where you got two spouses and they're both hard charging alpha type folks, um,
Yes.
and that is, unless they get some real boundaries, then that's a can be a mess. That can
Yes.
be a mess.
Yes. And that's one thing I think I want to talk about is yeah, just that boundaries that I've seen couples get into business together and then they really have a difficult time separating the relationship with the business, and everything starts to become a conversation about the business. And I think there's just, yeah, particular boundaries there that you just have to watch yourself, so you don't get so immersed into business talk and business. You just end up being business partners and roommates, and you kind of lose some of the best friend ship, and you lose some of the romance and the pursuit of your spouse. I think that you got to be careful there. Um, I want to talk about a quick story about mine. So I got into business honestly with my dad, and so we've been talking a lot about kind of our primary family, uh, but I got into business with my dad. This was back in 2007, and I had about $5,000, and he had about $5,000, and we found a house for $9,000 in Ohio, and we decided to buy it. And I didn't have enough money to buy it all, so he split it with me, and all of a sudden didn't really know what we were doing, but he was my business partner for 6 years because of that first deal, because we kind of split it. But we talk about kind of different seasons of life, and it was great. I mean, I loved my dad, and I trusted him, and he trusted me, and we were just kind of pulling our bootstraps up and doing this business and things are going really, really well. But he was, he was a teacher for 33 years, and then he got in the real estate, and he started to inch towards, 60, 62 years old, 63 years old. We were flipping houses, and then I was, in my early 30s, right? So I was, really, really wanting to run and gun and scale the business and hire a team, and he just wasn't in that particular mindset. So I think it started off really, really well, both partners, doing our thing. But then there came a season of, hey, I want to go this direction, and he wanted to go this direction, and we kind of very amicably, yeah, went our different ways as far as business goes. And so that was just kind of my experience there. And I've seen it happen other times, that when you do get into, it's like a partnership, that different seasons of life bring people different ways, and you kind of start to have different visions of your life. Somebody wants to scale a business and hard charge a business, and grow it, and some people might want to just a lifestyle business, like, oh, I just, I want to do a few deals a year, and just go play golf, right, at the same
Right.
time. So you just got to be careful. That's partnerships and family members, but it just kind of happened to be my dad was both of that, family and partnership. So anything just on that you've seen, Mike?
Well, I've seen some similar stuff to that, and exactly, I think, and it goes back to the season of life. You mentioned something beforehand about spouses getting together, and that's all they talk about. Like, I've got to watch that, because me and my son, we can talk about this all day, and then I'll forget. Okay, kids got some other stuff going on in his life besides work,
Right.
so we shouldn't just talk about that.
And
So,
then do
great.
you find yourself, I want to ask a personal question. Do you find yourself, you and him are chumming it up, you're talking about this all the time, but then is there other kids that, oh, I forgot to ask you about what's going on in English class? I don't know.
Yeah, well, so I can that I've got to keep an eye out on, because we just, we're in it every day. But yeah, the other kids are really good at grabbing your attention, though.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, yes, that. But I've got to watch out for that. Definitely watch out for that. And then I've got to also, um, one of the things I got to do he's a few years removed from being, a teenager. So I just have to always remember that, no, he works for me now. I cannot. Again, my wife's the biggest helper. She's like, would you talk to an employee like you just talked to your son?
Right.
Can you? And could you, like, with your buddy Brett Snodgrass or Matt Hoover? Or he's like, would you say the same thing to them? Like, you just, I'm like, no, no.
No, for sure. You had to go watch that.
But with family and businesses, again, one of the things, again, it is. I think it has everything to do with where you begin and how you filter it. There are so many choices that I made in the last 15, 20 years that, I made them for the very wrong reasons. I made them out of pride. I made them out of, oh, it sounds like a great idea. Whatever, boredom,
Hmm.
just dumb. Of course, I had great reasons for every one of the decisions, and I could convince you of them. Because, but it's how do you filter everything that all like, how are you filtering those decisions now? I've got a great buddy of mine who took over his dad's business 25 years ago, and his dad, actually, it was interesting. His dad sold them the business on a good deal, and he ran it, and then and it's just been a big success. And his dad comes in and helps him out every now and then. They're really well known family business. But that was part and parcel of, he grew up around it and loved it. Um, and what's interesting to me is that some of these people that own businesses, um, they actually, they shield their kids from, they don't talk about the business at home, like you said, but they actively don't want their kids to be a part of the business, because, and I've seen, they've said, well, we want them to go to, uh, I've had this business, successful business, making really good money, but I want them to go to college.
Hmm.
Now, again, whatever your opinion about colleges it is, I mean, I've got one. I've got one. It's not the greatest, but, and I went to college. I got a degree. But they you incubated your kids from success. I think from showing them, what real success looks like.
Mm,
Because a lot of and I'm speaking about a specific generation, maybe 20 that are in their 70s now. They thought that the college route would equal success for their kids, just across the board. And I have some folks that still think like that, and that could be true. That's
mhm,
and I want to say this. I'm not saying that this is the path, but what
mhm,
you do when you insulate your kids from this this thing that you do, I think it does them a disservice because they can see how the real world operates.
mhm.
They're not in this little bubble, because my experience was I went to college. I thought I was going to be this is what I thought I was going to be. I got my degree in journalism, and I was going to go straight to being the play-by-play announcer for the St. Louis Cardinals. I'll
Yeah.
go over there, I'll get a job over there, and within 2 years, and no, that's not how that worked out. So, um,
But it
so
worked out better.
it worked out way better.
Yeah,
It worked
that's
out
right.
way better. But I think that again, there's just stories of complete and utter kids take over a business and it implodes, and you have other stories of people taking over and they thrive and they
Mhm,
whatever. If your goal is just to maintain, that's great. Your goal is to 10x whatever that kid wants to do.
mhm.
There is a so I actually it's so there's this business that I know of in town. The guy's 35 years in business. He does zero marketing. He is a residential remodeler, does zero marketing and does probably $1.5 million in sales every year, which nets him about $700,000 a year. He's got
Wow.
no one. He wants to retire. But he's got no one to leave this business. It's got no debt. It's a mom
Mm,
and pop business. It's run by a husband and wife team, and the kids don't want anything to have to do with it.
wow.
And
Mm,
he's I don't know the rest of the story other than those. He wants to try and sell a business, and so um, you know um, yeah, there's lots of stories like
interesting. Yeah. No, definitely. I think, you know, another quick story, and again, I think it's just exposing your kids to just to different things. And again, I think just the whole theme of this is just really opening up that conversation. And I think we're creators, and sometimes you got to get creative with different things that you can do. So for example, like, so this past summer, and I think I mentioned this on another podcast, is that I did want to expose like my daughter to house flipping. She's never flipped a house before. I've been doing it for years. She's been in houses and seen certain things, but she's never really done some of the work and been exposed to that. So I said, I want to flip a house with her. And so we did that, and typically I put my money where my mouth is, and we bought this house, and didn't really know. I'd never done this before with these teenagers, but there was four of them. So it was my daughter, it was her friend, and it was a couple other friends, and there was like four 17-year-olds flipping this particular house together, and I was leading them, and really the whole point was not to make a profit. The whole point was not to it was number one to spend time with my daughter, but number two just to try to teach them and expose her to house flipping. And that was just something, I didn't know what was going to come out of it. I still don't know what is going to come out of it, but it was a great experience. I think she learned a lot. I also taught her a lot about entrepreneurship. I taught her a lot about buying assets and why I chose to buy assets that make money rather than working the 9 to 5 job, and taught her about entrepreneurship and how when you make money you can grow more money, and that how to, real estate investors don't pay any taxes. Like, these are things that I told her, and so hopefully these are things that maybe she can remember. Now, whether she makes the decision to go to college, which she probably will, then that's up to her, and I'm definitely okay with that. But again, just trying to expose your kids. Not all of them are going to follow your path, right? I think out of your kids, Mike, not all of them are probably going to work with you at any given point, right? So
Right. Yes. That is more than a probability. Right.
yeah. But I think just exposing them, I think if you come out of anything with this podcast, just opening that communication, exposing them, and maybe just creating that environment, that open space of, hey, I'd like to, because we're constantly asking our kids about school. We're constantly asking them about how's their day like. No one hardly ever asks dad. So it's like, just trying to open that conversation. Hey, I would like to just share a little bit about what we did today, and just start opening that. Maybe they get interested and start asking some cool questions. So, um, anything else, Mike, that you want to kind of wrap up just about just the conversation of bringing family into the business?
Yeah, on an age appropriate level, share the losses. Share when you struggled. The thing is like you have an opportunity to have joy in the house. Paul talks about this. It's like, hey, I have joy when I have a little. I have a joy when I have a lot. And some of our best times in our family were when we had nothing, and
Hmm.
we had nothing. And so the one of the things is you know, your kids are little human beings. And one of the things is I grew up kind of sheltered. I didn't know a lot about anything. I didn't know how to balance a checkbook until I was 26 years old. I dribbled all my checks to the bank. Um, they so I because my parents, they did the best they could, but I mean, just didn't have these concepts and ideas that were taught to us. And so share the wins, obviously, but share like losses, and tell the kids the story of your life in an age appropriate level. They want to know. They
Hmm.
actually will pay attention to those things.
Hmm.
And it's funny, my kids remember stuff that I've forgotten, and they bring it up. Remember when this happened? And like,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, that was a bad deal. And I remember that I was really upset about that. And I thought that was a memory that was gone. And they so tell them that, and tell them the arc of everything.
Hmm.
Don't hide the stuff.
Yeah.
The Yeah, don't hide the stuff.
Yeah. Definitely.
On an age appropriate level, you know, maturity level,
Yeah.
don't hide it.
Yeah. No. Definitely. And I think it's just important to bringing them in, whether they're going to be in the business or not, but bringing them into, uh, just into your life. I mean, this is a huge part of our lives. And just again, integrating your whole family into just to have that whole family, um, concept. And, so they can maybe as age appropriate, make some decisions and have some ownership into certain things. I think one of the other things, just you touched on this a little bit, Mike, is just how to protect from entitlement. I know that that's something that I'm always trying to think about. That we've been blessed, we have a lot, and just trying to not raise entitled kids. Um, you mentioned your son not giving everything to them. My daughter's talked to me about like, Dad, I want to own your business, but she's never done cold calling for the business before, right? She doesn't start somewhere at the bottom, right? So anything on that, just to protect from entitlement, because I think that could be the where kids might implode something if they didn't earn the right to own it in the first place.
Right. Well, you have to define what a gift is, and you have to let them know, hey, these are gifts. You have to earn this, and you have to participate in the household this way. And again, not every kid is every kid is different, and they respond differently. I have four kids. Each one of them responded to the exact way we did it differently.
Hmm.
Some of them have a bent toward entitlement. Some of them, know that, all I have to do is call grandma and she'll do it. And
Yeah.
and they go behind the back and do all this stuff. And you're like, where did you get that? And they know the levers to pull because, again, their hearts have to be, corrected.
Hmm.
And then and then we have kids that, always, they get it. They get it. So I would just say on the entitlement issue is just be consistent with all the kids, make them earn it. You got to have a hard red line about stuff. In our house, they are responsible for their vehicles. I think half of the vehicle, so we participate.
Hmm.
And the one thing, my son has a paid off car, and it's his car, and they did that. My daughter, she wrecked her car. She had to buy a new car. Uh, well, she was 19, and so she's responsible for that. We gave her a little bit of money for that, but it's the responsibility is on her, and it'll be there for my. And so those are the little things, and the other things is really quickly, especially now because of technology, we've got the the ability to give your kids Venmo and show them what money is and show them all these concepts is a lot easier to get them a bank account very early on to have them manage their own money is critical. And again, each kid does it differently.
Hmm.
Some kids are incredible saver, and some kid can't can't not spend the money. So
Exactly.
I don't have the remedy. I just have principles and concepts that we again try to implement as best possible. And when we fail, we try to do our best to course correct. But the entitlement thing is that I think is can be avoided. That's got to like mom and dad really have to go. We're not going to raise entitled kids. Full stop. It won't happen.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so that's how you have to deal with it. You have to set that up as a principle. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think this is just good conversations. I mean, it's we don't know all the answers. It's just really getting again, just going back to the beginning of opening the conversation, trying stuff, trying to be intentional. Open up your bank account for your kids and just having a rhythm maybe in your house of communication. Creating that environment of communication. Hey, we're gonna talk about daddy's work today or something, or I'm going to flip this house together with my daughter. I'm just going to try it out, see how it goes. Or if your kids are young, hey, let's try to do this little business this summer and see how it goes. I don't know. So it's just kind of trying different things. Just again, teaching them principles, and that's how they learn. And so hopefully this episode really was impactful for you guys today. I know it's on my heart to integrate my whole family into kind of what we're doing, and just kind of let them rise up in their own gifts. So thanks, Michael, for being on the podcast today. Appreciate you, buddy,
Appreciate you,
and
sir.
we'll see you guys next time at the Iron Deep podcast.